I think that something that is great about teaching is that basically you need to be able to explain everything to a student, and even things you are not really aware about. And sometimes students, they will come to you and they will ask you question and you have absolutely no idea about what to answer to them. And this is also part of the process about being a teacher, or part of the natural way of being a teacher. You cannot answer everything. Still, you have to be willing to do it, and you have to be willing to learn a lot of things, and you have to be willing to find where are your barriers and where you can go further, and where you can find answers, basically.
And I mean, it's also fine if you cannot answer that. I think that's also part of the learning process, is to say I don't know, because to be honest, I feel like the best leaders and supervisors are actually learning from the best teachers, because on one side they teach their staff, the people who are working for them, but on the other side, the most respected people will say what they know and what they don't know. And I feel like this comes from my point of view from something like teaching, where you will have situations where you actually don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be frank with the students. You need to tell them, I don't have the answer, but you may want to know the answer also, because you want to become better, or a person that is more aware about the question of the student. So even if you don't know, you have this willing to still go further and to improve your skill set, to improve your awareness of things, to improve yourself. So that's something that happened for me a lot. And, at one point I had to teach texturing, and I have done a bit of texturing, but not as much as someone who is really a texture artist, who is a senior texture artist into the industry. But I had to teach it. And I was really willing to learn. I was really willing to keep improving myself. And if one of my students came to me with a question, I was saying, I don't know, but let me look for the answer for the next time we'll have a lecture together. We'll have a course together.
Yes.
And that's, time you have to be willing to invest. Something that is super important is always to know where you are and where you want to go, and to be self-aware of your skills, to be self-aware of the skills you want to develop. And thanks to teaching, this was also something that I used a lot. I was willing to become creature modeler, and I was willing to keep focusing on doing animals. I was willing to keep focusing on doing anatomy. And when I started to record my CGMA class, my video for the CGMA class, for the CG Master Academy, what I had to do is that I had to relearn things I did not express very well. I had to improve my own skill, because I was about to share with people, and I was about to, there is also an exchange when you are doing that. Basically, the students are becoming your clients. They are paying for a course. So if they're paying for a course, then they are completely confident, or they are completely right in the fact that they need to get an income out of it, and they need to get a great income. Like for me, the more expensive the course is, and the more you should be learning, the more you should take for yourself out of the course. So that's when it was like an eye opener for me also, to become someone who is even more aware about anatomy, because if I had to teach it, then I had to understand, not everything, because we are always learning, and I feel that I couldn't say I know everything about anatomy. For me, I just feel like I just only scratch the surface of it. But I always feel like it's super important, if you have a question, to get really deep into the answer, and to get really deep into what you can find. I think that one of the issues I have, or one of the problem a lot of artists have, is that basically they are just scratching the surface, because they need to do that for a production, or they need to do that for a specific context. So from a production point of view or from a budget point of view, it makes sense because you cannot have all your artists to be keep spending time doing what they are really specialized in. If you have a project that require other skills, in companies like in big companies or in a lot of companies, or if you are working in advertising, for example, then you are hiring someone most of the time because he's a generalist, and you know that the budget will be smaller. You know that the time range for doing the project will also be smaller. So you cannot hire people that will be, you cannot hire people full time in the company because you will want them to work on other projects that will be focusing on only one task. But as a freelancer, that's not what really happened. What really happened is that you are hired by a company because you are super talented into your own specialty, into your own skill set, or where you really want to focus. And I think that anatomy was for me a way to feel confident about everything. So, you know, you said it, you can pull back to something when you feel a bit lost, and you can pull back to the theory behind things. You can pull back to things that is really the base for doing creature modeling, for example. If you need to do creature modeling for a show, and you are not super confident about the creature because it's a creature that doesn't exist, then what is your support? What is the way you will be able to do that? What is the way you will be able to do Godzilla, for example, because Godzilla isn't a creature that exists? Or how can you do dragon?
Not that we know of, no? Maybe it's hiding somewhere.
Yeah, it's just...
It's a big documentation for the last 70 years, basically, you know?
Yeah, it's just like Nessie, you know, the Loch Ness creature.
Exactly.
We don't know about it. But what we have about it is a feeling of what it could look like. And why do we have that? We have that because we're all aware that something exists in real life and in the real world, and this thing is anatomy. It's the science of a body. It's the science of the structure of a body. It's the science of how things should look like, because you know, you, me, when we are walking in the street, and sometimes we met people. I mean, when we could walk in the street, we can do that again now, but when we could do it before the COVID, we met a lot of people. We see a lot of faces. We see a lot of animals. We see dogs. We see cats because they are pets. And you see that, and you really have a feeling that something makes them real, because they are real, because there is something that is common to all of them. And you have also a feeling that they are familiar to yourself. So you do not want the knowledge to become really superficial and to become just something you can grab on because, I don't know, you are interested in something and you say, oh, that's cool, I want to do that. Let's have a superficial understanding about things. No, you need to keep focusing and you need to go really deep because you want to be able to create out of that. I think that, you know, students, what they want to do, they want to create, and they do not only want sometimes to reproduce like I don't know, a reference, to reproduce a picture that exists. Sometimes they want to do a creature, they want to do something that doesn't exist. And you know, clients, when they come and they ask MPC to do Godzilla, they want to do creatures that do not exist. So what you need to do is to find ways to make it believable and to make it exist. You need to find this support. You need to find really this, this support, this structure, so everything can look right and can look to be placed naturally. So that's, for me, was something that really pushed me in learning way more about anatomy than I would at the beginning. At the beginning, it was just, okay, I have a sense of it. I want to do animals. I want to do creatures because I love big movies. I love Godzilla. But then it gets way further than that. It gets to, now that I've seen what the industry is doing with entertainment and everything, now that I've seen what it is to actually work on Godzilla, I found that actually what I was enjoying the most out of that wasn't the first thing I thought at the beginning. So the first thing, you know, was just working on big movies and doing entertainment. But no, for me, it was more about, okay, I found something that has a deep point and that has a deep meaning for me. And this is anatomy. this is anatomy because anatomy is something that is universal. And if I know the fundamental of what I'm doing, then I can expand, I can create, I can feel free, and I'm not scared anymore about doing anything. You could tell me, okay, we're going to do any kind of creature. I don't feel scared anymore about that. I was before, but I don't feel that now. And it's because I feel that I understand more of the fundamental. The fundamentals will be something that will always help you to feel confident in your career. Sometimes in VFX, we hire, so this is not the case in every companies. Like some companies, they hire people because, they are technically good and they can be artistically okay. I'm thinking about modeler here specifically. You do not always need to be an artist to be a modeler, or to be a texture artist, or to be a lighting or whatever. But they hire people because they are technically relevant to the job. But big companies like MPC, DNEG, Framestore, sometimes they also hire artists who are technically not the best, but who have a notion of the fundamentals that is so good that you can give them whatever you want and they will be reliable. That if you ask them to design a creature that doesn't exist in real world, then that's not a problem. That's something that they can do. So yeah, fundamentals is basically your support to everything. I would say everything in 3D, but also everything in life. If you know how things are working, if you are willing to know how things are working, you are willing to have a deep knowledge of things, then you can free yourself of a lot of things.
I've actually had this situation where the company hired twice already. I had a situation where the company hired someone who was actually not versed in 3D. So we had like one situation, like head of I think lighting or something, and she came from scene. So she was actually used to do serious production on like real ones, not CG or something. But they hired her anyway because she know all this stuff about like the real production, which a lot of times is the opposite for a lot of CG worker. Like a lot of times they are not aware of the limits, so they overdo it. If you're not like, for example, I'm a lighting TD, I need, for example, like this situation here. The first time you actually light something in real life on one side, it is super frustrating. Even if you are like, I could light things in 3D, no problem. It will take some time. It will as an experiment, but I can do that. But it's because I can cheat as much as I like, and here suddenly you have so much like bouncing and things you have to control, which are much, much harder than in CG, because you just like put somewhere something, 5 seconds later it's not there, or ignore some part of the room. Get great, just a light for the eyes, for example. Here I have like one light and it bounces everywhere and destroys basically everything. So it is still like a thing where the fundamentals like help in both situations actually, and sometimes even specifically in CG, you still get like a grounding because you don't have anything. You can do whatever. Again, like I can always go to lighting. Is like if you don't know what, like you know your 3-point lights, and then you start. Okay, but then you literally lose control and you end up. I had situation where people end up with hundreds lights in the scene, which could have been done with 5, which also is a benefit for the scene, the rendering time, and so on. So it's not just like it looks better; it is also more important. And I also had this animation supervisor who never worked with Maya, so he was only 2D, and people still brought him in because he felt how movement should be. He could look at it and tell you on the 3D Playblast, he could tell you this is not how like stretch and squash actually will look like in like clay or something like that. I think that's something super, super important. And what basically it comes down, besides like fundamentals in a way, it also comes down to references. Because basically, for example, you were talking about your idols that were one of the first things you did. What are idols? They're references. They're references for careers. They're references for maybe paths you go. I want to become a creature modeler, or I want to become a toon modeler or something like that. But the same thing applies for basically everything, everything is a reference. If you, for example, create Godzilla, you would take references. You would take lizards and whatever, and then slowly build up like from all these references. And this can be people, this can be like situations. So that it's not just like it is only one thing. Even for example, this podcast, it was inspired by another YouTuber, Matt D'Avella.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Ground Up Show. I'm your host, Matt D'Avella, and this is a podcast about starting something from nothing. This week, I'm joined by Alex Banayan, an entrepreneur and author of The Third Door, the wild quest to uncover how the world's most successful people launch their careers. On the podcast, we talk about overcoming fear, the dangers of being overly persistent, and what he's learned about finding success.
And if there's one thing that I am certain of, is that there's no, like you said, exact blueprint to success. Anyone who's trying to sell you that is, it's a get-rich-quick scheme.
Enjoy the show.
Who is a fantastic YouTuber, and I loved his podcast, and he inspired me. And also for me, it was basically a reference how this podcast should work, because, what do I know about podcasts? I never did a podcast before, so I needed a reference. And I said, okay, I like this whole thing. I like to talk to people like you. And it's cool if it's recorded, if it's cool if it's a little bit guided. And then I was like, this guy, he makes an amazing podcast. I love his podcast. Why not use him as a reference? So he became my reference, how things look like, how things sound like. And that's basically then. And then I start to evolve, because I suddenly notice, oh, you know what? I don't like to talk about that. I like to talk about that. Oh, you know what? I don't like this colors. I like that colors. And I think that's something you should be aware, especially if you're starting. It is no shame in having references. It is no shame in going very, very deep, very low on the basics, grounding yourself. Because at the end of the day, besides like having fundamentals to go back to and feel safe later, if new things come your way, it is also, like, to be honest, like we have our expectations are so high when we start something, it is much easier to just use a reference and start there instead of like, okay, I want to create a new creature. And then you create something and it looks like Frankenstein monster and you're like, this is shit. But if you have a reference like a lizard or something, you instantly create, or like Godzilla, you're like, oh, it looks kind of Godzilla-ish, but it looks good. And it's my first one, and I feel like this is something still underappreciated, even sometimes from myself. I sometimes have to remind myself that I need references when I start, especially something new, whatever it is, music, podcasts, YouTube, even as a technical director, I should always like look at the references first, look at basics first, and then just like slowly go my way. I think that's basically the most important part that you just mentioned.
It happened to me a lot, actually, when I was teaching. I had a lot of students who came to me and they did not wanted to use references because they felt that they were not creative enough, because they were using something that exists, and they felt that they were trapped into something. And again, just to jump back on that, is that basically you need to have boundaries. You need to have borders at the beginning. You need to make sure that you restrain yourself to learn something that is, let's say, the ground truth, something that actually exists. So later on, you can expand on that, and you can feel free. You do not feel that you have boundaries enough, or you can go wherever you want. So yeah, that's something that is super important. References, as you said again, references basically when you are working, like if I have like a student that come to me and tell me, can I show me your work? I say, yeah, no problem. Send me some pictures, send me whatever you want. And then a lot of times they come to me and they are just working on something, but they do not have any references. Or when I ask them, okay, what are your references? And they tell me, I don't know. I've been just using this photo, but yeah, I want to create something. So I'm not completely trying to reproduce something that exists. I understand this willing and this willingness, but you need to restrain yourself at the beginning. And it's something that is hard. You need to sacrifice at the beginning so you can make sure that you are really comfortable enough so you can create later.
You are listening to the 21 Artist Show, a podcast that inspires creatives to make meaningful content to pursue their passions. I'm talking with creators, artists, and engineers about their careers, lessons they have learned, and how to make an impact. I'm your host, Alexander Richter. I'm a technical director and coach in visual effects, animation, and games. For more content, go to 21artistshow.com. Enjoy the show.